count, but I would surmise that the two that Prabhupada quoted most of all was Jive Sarup Hoy Krishna Nitya Das, just the first line. He rarely quoted the second line. Every living being by constitution is the servant of Krishna eternally. And the other one, Jare Deko Tare Kaha Krishna Upadesh Amar Agyai Guru Hoya Taro Edesh. Wherever you go, whoever you meet, speak to them the teachings of Krishna, in this way become a guru, and deliver your land. So, Srila Prabhupada saw that as the essence of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings and of our whole movement. Srila Prabhupada also quote his own Guru Maharaj, Prana Chaita She Hetu Pracha. Who has got life, he can preach. This is actually referring, if we see the whole poem, to the Vrajavasis, or the pure devotees. Because they have real life, therefore they preach. So one who has got life, who's got essence. Essence also means life. They can preach, and even if we're very dull or on the neophyte platform, we get life by going. We become enlivened, and others also become enlivened. It's the life of all knowledge. Vidya Vadhu Jivanam. This Sankirtan movement is in poetic language. It's the life of all transcendental knowledge. Often devotees, they say, well, I read the books, but I can't remember. So what's the answer? Then you preach. You make notes of what you wrote, and then you find someone and you speak to them. Then you'll remember. If we speak it, then we'll remember it. And if we read it, then definitely we want to communicate that to others. It automatically comes that, oh, read this, I read this, I want to tell that to others. So those who've got life, they can preach. On the other hand, if we don't preach, then we won't get any life. We'll become dull. You may say, what about the poor pujari? Well, he should also preach and know that he's also part of the preaching movement. You can be a pujari just in your home and dress the deities, but this is for bringing others to Krishna, attracting others to Krishna. Pujaris should also go out, and they should also speak. Prabhupada also said that the pujaris, they should speak to the people who are coming to the temple and instruct them. They should bow down to the deities, all these other things. So this that our movement is a dynamic preaching movement, it really makes ISKCON what it is. If ISKCON's not a preaching movement, if it's just a temple movement where people come for darshan, or a fund collecting movement, or a kirtan mela movement, or a japa retreat movement, there may be so many aspects to this movement, but without the thrust to make the effort to bring people to Krishna, it's not really ISKCON. It's not Prabhupada's movement. Unless we are concerned to bring others and train them. And you may say, well, what about the farms? What are you going to do in the farms? Well, the preaching is especially for the cities. The farms are preaching by demonstration, how people can live very simply. I've just been going through some of Prabhupada's quotes. He's very, very clear about this. He's saying that the cities, there's no need to live in the city. The only reason to live in the city is to preach. Otherwise, everyone should go to the farm. Live simply and chant Hare Krishna. Why live in this city, hellish life? So that's another thing we have to preach, because we have so many devotees. They're attached to the city life for no particular... If you're going to be a devotee, then you should be attached to doing whatever is required to be Krishna conscious. There's no real reason to live in the city, unless one is very much involved in the preaching mission. Otherwise, it's just material attachment, and we don't make proper advancement. And then we're thinking, oh, I have to send my children to a good school so they get a good education, so they can also get a job. And you get all these nonsense ideas which are actually dragging down our movement by bringing in this neophyte mentality. So this movement is meant for preaching, so all the temple construction, deity worship, whatever it is, all the management or whatever, it's all just so that we can nourish the devotees who have come to our movement and to spread that to others. We should remember these two things. Janma sata kari karo para upaka. Make our own life successful and help others. So both things should be there. Both things must be there. If we're so much concerned with preaching that we ourselves don't think that it's important to develop ourselves, then our preaching will be very shallow. And sometimes we see that some devotees, they stress so much, preach, bring more, and that's all they're interested, bring more. But there's no personal development. We also have to read the books, live the life of Krishna consciousness, become strong ourselves in Krishna consciousness, and see that others, we're not just bringing them in, but we have to bring them up also. Not that, okay, we brought someone in, the only thing you have to train him is to stick his hand in his bead bag and mumble something and move his beads around 16 times, and to go out and bring more people to do the same thing. But rather we should train people, bring them up, so they become strong, and then they, in Krishna consciousness, they can help others to come in and be strong also. It's not just a numbers game. Okay, utility is the principle. This is summarized in Srila Prabhupada's often stated, do the needful, whatever is necessary for spreading Krishna consciousness. When Srila Prabhupada came to the West, he saw the situation is very different to in India, which is why one reason he was able to be successful, one major reason, is because he was able to adjust to the circumstances. And if he had insisted that everyone just practice Krishna consciousness in the way that it was practiced in India, in the way that he was used to it, then it wouldn't have been possible. Srila Prabhupada made adjustments. He was prepared to do whatever was required. One sensational thing which Srila Prabhupada did was to have young men and women living in the same building in the ashram. And ashram in India means men, or there might be women's ashrams, but that's not considered that's unusual, not considered something very good in general. But to have them live, of course, not in the same room, but Srila Prabhupada saw that was necessary for spreading Krishna consciousness. So he did it. He was criticized for it, but he did it because he saw this was necessary for spreading Krishna consciousness. When he came to the West, he had no place to stay. He was just staying with people who were meat eaters. They kept meat in the fridge, so Prabhupada had to keep his food in the fridge also. Later on, he would not, there'd be no question, but in the beginning he had to do it. For the sake of preaching, he had to do it. Even when he was pushing Harikesh, you must go to Russia and preach, he didn't want to go. He was making so many excuses. Ultimately he said, there's nothing to eat except meat. And Prabhupada said, then you eat meat, but you have to go and preach. Actually, when he went, there was, what was there? There was this hard rice was there, and plenty of milk products, but not much in the line of the Vaishnava vegetarian diet. But meat, there was plenty. But the Srila Prabhupada is like, even going to South Africa when Prabhupada went, because they had a very strict policy at that time. They didn't very much like the Hare Krishna movement. So Prabhupada, he was prepared, if necessary, I'll put on this shirt and pant to go. Otherwise he went everywhere as a devotee, in devotee clothes. He said, if necessary, I can change also. So I know how to wear it. He used to wear in his business life, which at that time, in the 1930s, 1940s, it was very uncommon for people to wear such Western clothing, but Prabhupada did. And he was prepared to do it. Ultimately, he didn't have to do so. The devotees accompanying him did, but he himself went in his devotional clothes. The point is that he's prepared to do whatever is required for the sake of preaching Krishna consciousness. Even wearing a watch. In those days, when I came to India, most people didn't have watches. And it was considered a very luxurious item to have a watch. And Prabhupada is a sannyasi wearing a watch. The sannyasis, they didn't wear shoes. Most people didn't wear shoes. They didn't wear watches. Prabhupada wore a watch. What kind of sannyasi is that? But he regulate his time. He didn't want to waste a moment. What is that? Avyartho kalatvam, one of the symptoms of a devotee on the level of bhava. He doesn't want to waste a moment. We're over time for the lecture. I'll just push on. So do whatever is required. One of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's disciples, it was Janmashtami. He was sent away. You have to go and arrange some program. He was in Mayapur. Go immediately to Mathura and arrange. We're going to go there, do some program. One thing, you don't travel on Janmashtami. And if he's going to travel already, he was weak. He had been sick. So then give him food to eat. He's not supposed to eat. He's not supposed to miss it. Immediately go. You told him, do it. If you need to eat, okay, eat. Give him food. So, practical. When preaching is highlighted, then we may do things which we would ordinarily not do. But we shouldn't use it as an excuse. It's not that preaching should be some excuse to do whatever we want to do. Just like I said, you can have a watch. Okay, we can have a watch, and we can have a car, and we can have all kinds of facilities. But we shouldn't try to amass facilities in the name of preaching. Actually, we're attached to the facilities. That's why it's very good here. You're going to build a beautiful temple for Radha Gokula, and the brahmacharis, they will live simply, no electricity. Just to remember, everything is for him. There'll be millions of dollars spent for Krishna. And for ourselves, just whatever is required. Maybe even cutting down, living austerely, not opulently. Opulence we can accept for Krishna, for Krishna's service, but not for our own sake. Then purity is the force. The word force has various meanings. One thing is that we can force someone to do something, but we can't force anyone to be Krishna conscious. So here force means the power, the energy that we get to preach Krishna consciousness comes from purity. And although purity in one sense means to be, or in the fullest sense means to be free of all material desires, but Srila Prabhupada in many, many letters, he emphasized that to maintain the purity of our movement, he didn't give a very vague instruction, something like, well, everyone should be free from lust, greed, anger, but he gave the practical prescription. Everyone should chant 16 rounds, minimum of the Hare Krishna mantra, and they should follow the regulative principles. They should rise early, follow the temple programs. This was the practical means of maintaining purity, not something vague. Of course, if you say we should all be free from lust, greed, anger, personal desire, personal attachments, that's true. But the practical means that Srila Prabhupada gave was to follow this program of being fully absorbed in Krishna's service. That 16 rounds, 4 regulated principles, temple programs, reading the books, always engaged in Krishna's service. That will maintain purity. So we get purity, or the energy to go on in Krishna consciousness. I just got a letter written to me. It's quite a common thing. Why do, more or less, the question is, why do people fall away? And Prabhupada would answer this, that if you don't follow all of this, then you must fall down. You may say, well, that's what you're falling down from. Fall down means to stop doing those things. But if we stop doing those things, then we're in a very dangerous situation. If we do these things, then we get energy and strength. Of course, we have to be careful also in so many ways. It's not that I can just follow the program and then do all nonsense. We have to be very careful. It's just like if you eat healthy food, you become nourished and strong. If you eat poison, you become sick. Nowadays, a lot of the food that we eat, it's poison also. It has nourishing qualities, but poison also because of the preservatives or whatever. So whatever we eat, it affects us. It's also true, whatever we hear, it affects us. Whatever we see, it affects us. Maybe not so much physically, but on the psychological level. So if we associate with non-devotees, then we'll be affected by that. If we associate with Mayavadis, then we'll start to think, oh, it's very what they're saying is true. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu warned, Asat Sangha Tyaga, E Vaishnavacha, Sri Sangi Eka Sadhu, Krishna Bhakta. He said that when he was asked, what is the proper behavior of Vaishnava? He said, the first symptom of a Vaishnava is that he gives up bad association. Then he defined what is that bad association. One is called a Sri Sangi, which literally means one who likes to associate with women. In a broader sense, it means someone who is interested in material enjoyment. And then Krishna Bhakta, someone who is dedicatedly not a devotee of Krishna. That not mean he's not a materialist, but he's maybe a Mayavadi. He's not materialist, not interested in material enjoyment, but he's not a devotee of Krishna. He's committedly not a devotee of Krishna. So to remain strong, we have to not associate with Stri, or the principle of increasing our material enjoyment, or even with people who are interested in that. There are so many materialistic people, there's so many materialistic ideas, but all their idea is how to enjoy this world. We have to be aloof from that. And also in our movement, we have to be aloof from this Stri Sangha, means man and woman mixing is very prominent in the modern world. But that destroys spiritual life, free mixing. It destroys even material life. People are not happy. By allowing this free mixing of men and women, they think they'll become happy. But actually, their mind is just becoming more and more disturbed. So in our movement, we should be very strict about this. There should be no free mixing. Even grihastas, they should be very careful, even with their own wives, what to speak of with others' wives. There should be no divorce, all these things, they're all take away from our purity. Then we lose the force. If we think, oh, it's okay, just relax. Don't relax. In this department, don't relax. If we relax, then we're finished. Because Maya doesn't relax. We may think, I'll just take a break. Maya doesn't think I'm going to take a break. She thinks, oh, he's taking a break. Very good, now's my chance. And as long as we stick very carefully to the program, that is our kavach, that is our armor. Sometimes devotees become very interested to get some different kinds of mantras that will protect them, but the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, following the standard program that we have, this is our best protection from all that is Maya. That gives us strength to resist the charms of Maya, and also to prevail, to invade, to break through other people's kavach, their false ego, which prevents them from becoming Krishna conscious, to break through that and to communicate Krishna consciousness to them. Purity gives us the force. Purity means Krishna consciousness. That we're actually meditating on Srila Prabhupada and his mission and how to spread it. That gives us the force to preach Krishna consciousness, to remain strong and to preach also. And again, the books are the basis. So if we're reading, that will help us very much. Chanting, associating with devotees, meditating on how to spread this movement, we get spiritual strength by the grace of Krishna. Otherwise, Daivi hiesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya. Maya is very difficult to overcome. Maya is much more powerful than us. She is one of the Shaktis of Krishna. We are also, but we are Tatashta Shakti. We are somewhere in between. We can be in Maya, or we can either be in Maya or we can be under the shelter of Krishna. How can we be under the shelter of Krishna? Mahatmanastu mang parta daiving prakritim ashritaha bhajam jananya manaso gyatva bhutadim avyayam. We can be under the shelter of Krishna if we are always engaged in service to Krishna, bhajantyananya manasa, with mind fixed on Krishna, knowing Krishna to be supreme. So in these two conditions is encapsulated that we should always be engaged and our mind should be fixed and we should know what we're doing, why we're doing it. And then Krishna helps us. Krishna helps us to overcome the great force of Maya. So purity is the force. Again, we don't have the force of armies and billions, trillions of dollars. We don't have that kind of material force. But we have a mission to conquer the world. And then how are we going to conquer the world? We have no bombs. We have no tanks. We have no guns. Well, we have bombs. We have spiritual bombs in the form of Srila Prabhupada's books. And this spiritual energy is more powerful than the material energy. It takes a huge arrangement to conquer some nation. Even you see some nation may attack another nation and they have a big army and air force and navy and intelligence services, so many things. It's a big arrangement. So we also need a big arrangement, but for the preaching movement, we should remember that ultimately we're not interested in all these complex arrangements. We're not interested in the arrangements for the sake of it. Our movement is based on hearing and chanting about Krishna and communicating that to others. If we have the motive to do so, that will give us the force, that will give us the energy by which we can bring others to Krishna consciousness. Even Prabhupada said, I will consider my mission successful if even one person becomes a pure devotee. Srila Prabhupada certainly had a lot of energy. Purity is the force. How was Srila Prabhupada able to do what he did? Purity is the force. He was completely absorbed in pleasing his spiritual master, in pleasing Krishna. And he gave his heart to Krishna, and Krishna gave him that power, that energy. It's reciprocal. And the basis is love. Our basis is not power. It's not like we don't want to be like Hiranyakashipu, trying to get some power so we can conquer others. But our force comes from purity, which comes from humility. And of course, we have to work hard and try our best. It's not just a matter of sitting down and being pure. Of course, even that can help. Even our chanting in the temple, where only our own devotees are here, that also helps to purify the atmosphere of the world. Even our chanting our japa. So we should induce others to do so also. but also induce them to do so on the platform of pure devotion to Krishna. We don't want to spread mixed devotion. We want to spread pure devotional service. That people understand we're doing this for the pleasure of Krishna. And chanting is for what? First thing, Cheto Darpana Marjanam, cleaning the heart, so that we can offer our heart ultimately to Krishna, pure heart. So everyone in this movement, we're all meant to become pure devotees. Books are the basis. We get the guidance to do so from Srila Prabhupada's books. We have to distribute the books. Some devotees are doing very outstanding service. Actually, whatever anyone does in this miserable material world, especially in this miserable Kali Yuga, is outstanding. Even the most neophyte devotee is better situated than even some great jnani. Krishna says, Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mang Prabhajate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samahatma Sadurlabha. One may be a great jnani, but after many lifetimes of being a great jnani, he can surrender to Krishna. But a neophyte devotee, he may not be very austere or learned, but he surrenders to Krishna means he's already ahead of the great jnani. He already came to that point. So even the most neophyte devotee is better situated than the best of non-devotees. Every devotee is recognized by Krishna. So everyone can try in their own way. We know the story of Lord Ram building the bridge to Lanka. All the monkeys, they're going and bringing huge rocks, and the squirrel is pushing a little sand into the water. What is the sand going to help? But Lord Ram appreciated. So not everyone's going to be a big rock carrier who can bring the biggest rock and throw in the water, but whatever we do, that will be appreciated. If we can carry a rock, then carry a rock. Don't just push some sand in the water. But if due to our circumstances or whatever, we can just push some sand, if we do that sincerely, then Lord Ram will be satisfied. And there are so many monkeys who are throwing rocks, but the squirrel is famous up to the present day. They became better known because Lord Ram appreciated. So we should all contribute in whatever way we can. If we can't be a big, powerful monkey serving Lord Rama, then we can be a squirrel, but don't be mediocre. Do whatever we can. That will be appreciated. Hare Krishna. I'm over time. All glories to His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada.